Support comes from St. Louis Public Library Foundation, helping the library serve children and their families with programs and services needed to become lifelong readers. More information about the foundation is at slpl.org.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. On any given day of the week, talented musicians and groups of all genres play venues of every size across the St. Louis region. It's a blessing and a curse. That's so much to enjoy, but how can it all be experienced? A new music showcase called Free for All is answering that question. Over 3 days this weekend, 100 local acts will take the stage at multiple venues throughout Grand Center. One of the people behind the effort is Joe Hess, Free for All co-founder. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Joe, you've reported on St. Louis's music scene for quite some time, and you've booked music showcases in the past, the most recognizable one being the RFT Music Showcase. And the last of that showcase was quite a while ago, so there's been something of a void. So what was it specifically, Joe, that brought Free for All about?
Mike Landau of Fat Buddha Studios and Blazer approached me multiple times wanting to bring this event back. But besides him, members of the music community never stopped asking me about doing an event like the RFT Music Showcase.
And what is it about now that made it the right time?
One big reason for having Free for All here in 2025 is Maddie, Music at the Intersection. This is a festival that has been built up over the last several years, and the infrastructure is now in place to support a massive undertaking that Free for All is.
Mm-hmm. Now, Free for All, it operated or is operated with an open submission process for musicians and music lovers to throw their hat in the ring, as it were, for consideration as one of the 100 artists to perform. Approximately how many submissions, Joe, came in for Free for All?
We opened submissions on June 26th and closed them on July 10th, so this is just 2 weeks. We had 300 submissions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 300 artist submissions and nearly 200 nominations, which is just general public filling out the form and recommending who they would like to see at the event.
What was the criteria for deciding which artists would participate?
Well, there were a lot of things that we looked at. Mainly, the criteria was meant to be as open as possible. We want to give the feeling that anybody could be playing this event. But there were a few key things that we looked at, namely recorded music, some kind of studio recordings, and experience performing live.
And why was the latter part, experience performing live, important here?
Well, with exactly at 100 acts this weekend, over 9 stages, over 2 days, that is so much to coordinate. And one of the main things that we looked at were individuals who had experience playing in a variety of different settings. So we wanted individuals who we knew could show up and perform because the pace is hectic and the actual feeling of being in this space in Grand Center with all of these stages active at the same time is like a sensory overload.
Yes, it sounds like it. Now, when you were last on the show in July, Joe, you mentioned that Glass Mattress was a band that was new to you then, and that you'd learned about them in curating and producing Free for All. So now we know that Glass Mattress is, in fact, part of the lineup for this weekend. Were there any other acts that you were alerted to, that you got hip to through producing Free for All? Can you tell us about a couple of them?
Wow, there were so many. To be honest with you, I want to say at least 30% were names that I had never seen before, maybe even a little bit more. Some of the names on the list are artists that I worked with even back during the Riverfront Times showcase. Namely, as far as brand new acts that I had never seen before, I want to say Space Quaker left quite an impression. Sprite was a band that I had seen live before, but I had kind of passed out of my mind until I saw their application again. And that was quite common as well, to see bands that I had seen the name but didn't necessarily associate a sound with. So I became more familiar and excited by a number of different artists.
So if we do go behind the scenes of a music showcase, this weekend is the inaugural Free-for-All showcase that you've produced. And you have been very clear that this is a showcase and not a festival. Why is that distinction so important, Joe?
Well, I think with a festival, there are a lot of considerations that are made beyond the music. I think things like food, vendors, and a lot of other things that may enhance the experience for both the artist and both the concert goer. What we're doing with the Free-for-All Music Showcase and why we choose to call it a showcase is sets are much shorter than you might be used to at a typical festival. The sets here are 30 minutes max. Some artists might even be performing for only 20 minutes because punk bands, for instance, don't play necessarily a long set. So we're giving space to artists who are used to playing for shorter amounts of time and putting them, front and center in a way to where they don't have to overextend themselves. But also just the sheer force of having 100 artists over 2 days, we are fitting everybody in a way to where this is happening at a rapid fire pace. So...
Well, I'd like to introduce another voice into this conversation, someone who is accustomed to rapid fire paces. Tamara Dodd performs as Bates. She's a hip-hop artist and one of the 100 acts that will hit the stage at Free-for-All Music Showcase this weekend. Bates, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So, Bates, you have been writing, recording, and performing original music as Bates for over a decade now, and you've also founded and produced your own music event, FemFest, which spotlights women rappers in the St. Louis region. With that experience as a performing artist and an event producer, what do music showcases like Free-for-All, as Joe has described, what do they mean to independent musicians, whether they're emerging or a little more seasoned the way that you are?
Well, so even with FemFest, which it's not just rap, it's R&B, we have rock, we have production battles and stuff like that. It's all genres, try to highlight any type of like spoken word, those types of things. Those are the acts that we usually put on. So, but for me and for them and from what I've gotten, people like Katara, who is like now like one of the go-to vocals of in St. Louis, and then or KV. These are places where I met KV the writer and Katera for the first time, So for them, these festivals mean not necessarily just the showcase part of it, but also the networking part of it.
So when you first heard about Free-for-All, what went through your mind? What were you feeling?
I was like, yay, it's something to do, that's not like, you kind of get exhausted with doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes you want to feel part of the collective and part of the community again. When you have reached certain amounts of success in St. Louis specifically, it can be kind of like polarizing, where you're kind of like stuck in this one bubble, and it just feels good to be welcomed back into the community as a musician, just like everybody else. We can all have fun doing this again.
Joe, how much of what Bates has just shared reflects why you and other founders of Free-for-All wanted this to happen so much?
100%. 100% of what you just said applies to this event, because this is for the individuals who might play out multiple times a week to the individuals who are making music outside of the city and touring, to people who just play music essentially for their friends and family and want to write songs with their friends. This event is meant to bring everyone together under the umbrella of just being a musician. The names on our poster are in alphabetical order. No names are in a bigger font than any other. If you go to our website, freeforallstl.com, the website itself is tailored toward discovery. It's another reason why we're a showcase rather than a festival, because our website does a lot of the heavy lifting. There's a jukebox player on the website with all of these playable songs, and there are profiles for every single artist to tell you what genre and where they're playing, and in some cases a little bit more about each individual artist.
Mm-hmm. So genres then, which ones are represented? I mean, genres can be very difficult to talk about, but what are some of the ones that that maybe people would have to travel to hear, or are maybe considered a little more niche and will get the time that they deserve at this showcase?
Well, this showcase includes a lot of artists who identifies multiple genres. Almost every artist listed multiple genres, and I think that applies, especially here in St. Louis. We have this groundswell of artists who are really breaking boundaries and doing so in a way that is profound. So we have everything from rock genres like indie rock and punk rock and metal to different hip-hop genres, experimental hip-hop. We have experimental music in general. We also have jazz. We have free jazz. We have people who are approaching very well-known genres but doing it in an abstract way.
Mm-hmm. And what for you will mark success?
For me, it already feels like a success because the artists are excited, the artists are mobilized. We might not have the attention of the full general public of St. Louis just yet. We just launched about 10 weeks ago and brought Free For All, even as a name and a concept, up for the first time. So right now, we're in a period of building. But to me, this already feels like a success because so many artists are invested, want this to work. And really, this event was built on myself being a musician in the city and listening to what other people like me want.
Joe Hess is a co-founder of Free For All Music Showcase. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
The Free For All Showcase is this weekend, Saturday, September 6th and Sunday, September 7th at various venues in Grand Center. The event is free and for all ages. You can check out the lineup at the showcase website. That's free, numeral 4, all, stl.com. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll learn more about Bates' experience as an independent artist, her latest music, and what folks can expect from her upcoming performance at Free For All this weekend. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation with Bates, an independent hip-hop artist here in St. Louis and one of the performers at this weekend's Free For All Music Showcase in Grand Center. Bates, we've talked about musician experiences in several episodes of St. Louis on the Air, and everyone, navigates life in ways that are guided by their personal lived experiences, identities, beliefs, and so forth. When you first started your music career, what were some of the first lessons you learned as a woman and an independent hip-hop artist in STL?
The first thing I can say that stood out was a decision I made to drop my name. So my name used to be Norma Bates.
Norman Bates? Yeah.
So, but and before then it was like Russia or USHA, right? And I wasn't getting good slots when it came down to performing live. I would always be at the end and of the list whenever they would call you up. You sign up and then you expect to be in a certain place, and they would keep bumping me until the end. And I realized that once I dropped my the feminine part of my name, that I started getting better slots. So that was my first hardcore lesson, that me marketing myself as a woman wasn't profitable for them. Well, it wasn't something they were looking to do. I was, and then once I took that off, it was like I all of a sudden started getting all these great slots. So later down the line, that's why I started stuff like FemFest to avoid, so that women won't have to keep like hiding themselves in order for them to be, recognized in this field.
And how did that compound some of the challenges you faced as an independent artist?
Well, so in order for me to overcome those types of things, a lot of changes made, not just the change to my name from being Norma Bates to just Bates, but it made me look at things from a different perspective when it comes to, I guess, how many other opportunities we weren't getting because of those types of things. So just myself as the entity Bates, I've used that to fuel create Film Fest to recognize different things and stuff like that, but also like to make music that crosses those intersections at all times.
Now, independent artist can mean many different things. For you, you are not exclusively signed to a record label, but you are very independent in that you do not even have a manager.
No, I've never had a manager.
So what are the kinds of things, the tasks that you do before anybody gets to see you, for example, on stage at Free for All?
Oh, my goodness. So let's just go with this week. Okay, so this particular week, I have a few different concerts coming up. Me noticing that all of my shows were free, I created a flyer that said I have a free tour, right? So I created this flyer.
So you're the promoter?
I'm the promoter, okay? I am also the booking agent for the talent that comes along with me. So that means that if I have a feature on stage with me, or a DJ that I have to have for a hip-hop concert, or someone singing on the songs, I'm also the booking manager and the person that cuts the check to them as well, the songwriter, the producer. I have to take photos. I have to schedule all of my own things. I have to record all of my own music. All this comes out of my own pocket. I have to constantly network with people before all of this happens in order for me to have a successful release or concert or anything. Anything that I need people to pay attention to, I have to work hard for it early, before anybody sees me. I've done a ton of tasks.
Why do it all?
Because it's hard. Honestly, I don't want to. It's just, at this stage in my career, I don't really have many. I guess I can say that everybody's so busy doing their own thing, and it's kind of hard to rely on people, especially during festival season, to be catered just towards you. It's other artists in St. Louis who need help. I actually know how to do a lot of this stuff on my own. It's not a choice, though. It's really not a choice. I prefer to have a team. And
what motivates you then to keep doing it?
I love music. My whole entire life has been nothing but music. I grew up in a household where my parents threw large parties every weekend in the house, and we talking 30, 40 people in our house. Yeah, my mother had 8 siblings. So,
oh my goodness.
And so all
That's
of my
a party already. Yeah,
it's a party already, but it was very heavy. We had large jukeboxes in our house. So I grew up that way, and it's kind of it's part of my DNA at this point, and that's also how I get my message across and tell my life story.
Now, you've been working on a new album recently released, taking your fans along the ride of producing an upcoming album, which is titled The Terrible Tales of Mother Goose. And the first single off that album is Ring Around the Rosé. Let's hear a bit of that.
Don't start no shit, won't be no shit, so we gon' start this shit off right. Yo, if you just got paid and the taxes hit, you might go home broke tonight. Hey, don't start no shit, won't be no shit, but 2 rights don't make you wrong. It ain't tricking if you got it, but you got it if you're tricking. If you treating, then we tagging along. Hold up, yo, it's your homegirl Bates. I'm just here for a time. I know you feeling like a burden, but the pleasure's mine. She was on a liquid diet, so I fed her some dime, and now she wobble every time I put my hand on her thigh. Asking me the same question, like I'm telling a lie. I might come up kinda cocky, but believe me, I'm shy. I ain't tripping out for short, yeah, I gave it a try. I just gave her a little nod. See her there with a guy. Now hold on, baby, before you swipe it, let me check something first.
And that was Ring Around the Rosé by Bates featuring Ebony Eyes. The beat was produced by 3D, a music producer from St. Louis. And just to correct, I wish that the whole album were out already, because I heard this track on the New Music Roundup recently, and I can't wait for the whole thing to be released. Now, Bates, why is it that you decided to document the experience of making this album and then to share it via Instagram?
A lot of people that are in my circle don't have. I'm not the only person that doesn't have a manager. It's a lot of people that I know who are unmanaged and independent, and I think that my experience, since I have a lot of experience doing things like learning how to produce a video, learning how to produce an album, or I make beats too. I do all of these different things. That it'd be good for people to see what it looks like for them to have to do it by themselves. Like, it's possible, but this is the work that it entails. So people see this rollout of me right now, and they're like, "Oh, this is drop day Bates. Bates is coming." You could tell that I'm about to drop some new music because of how heavily I'm pushing everything and doing all these different. So that's the reason why I do, so that people can see it. I started noticing that people were paying attention to that, so it made me be like, "Oh, okay, well, cool. Let me just show people what it actually entails, so that maybe they'll be inspired to do it again, do the same thing."
So this weekend, when you hit the stage for Free for All, what is it that people can expect? Is it some of what they've come to know, or is it something new?
I think maybe a mixture of both. So where I'm at is I want to keep surprising people. After you've been in the game so long, it starts to get redundant, doing the same thing over and over again. But music is so intricate that I can always find a new way to make things feel fresh for someone, So I think that me and the Dark Room are going to have a time.
Okay.
Considering the Dark Room is a very intimate setting and people sitting and watching, I think I'm getting ready to do something totally different at Dark Room.
Take advantage of that intimacy.
I'm going to take advantage of that. And I know that people, if you're staying that late, you stayed this long, you're coming to see me, so I'm getting ready to turn up the Dark Room as opposed to letting it stay where people are sitting sipping cocktails. I want them to stand up.
Okay. Well, I wish I could be there. Best of luck to you at this performance.
Thank you.
Bates is an independent hip-hop artist and music producer here in St. Louis. She'll perform at the Free for All Showcase on Saturday, September 6th at 11 p.m. at the Dark Room. Thank you again.
Gotcha.
This episode was produced by Maya Norfleet.
Our audio engineer is Aaron Dorr. This podcast was mixed and edited by Aaron.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STLPR app or wherever you get podcasts.